friends. Today we're going to be doing Journey to Meaning Lesson 5 in writing. So, our goal today is that I can add transition words to my story planning map to help me organize the events in my story. So, we're going to be using something called temporal words, and that's just a fancy name for words that tell time and how things are happening in a certain order. What you need are your story planning papers. So those are the ones that say problem at the top. Um, you'll have a solution one. You also have a kickoff and a character one. We're probably not going to need the character one today, but it's good to keep it nearby. All right, let's get started. So it's important that as authors, as writers, we provide the reader of our stories as much information as possible, right? Because that will help them to understand our story best. One of these important details we can add is passing of time. So maybe that's time in the day, goes from morning to afternoon to night. It could be very specific in the time. It can be day to night. It could be about the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. But as writers, we call these words temporal words. So again, fancy word, temp is time. So it's time words to help the reader know that time is passing by. These words can be small words and phrases, but they have a big impact in your story. They add more detail and they really help with your reader visualizing it. So why don't you try to say this word with me again, and I'm going to do a little clock like that. So it's temporal words. One more time. Temporal words. Good. Words that tell time. So if these words show a passage of time, let's look at some examples of ones we might use and where we might use them in our stories. We are also going to call them transition words because some of them help us transition from the beginning to the middle to the end of our story. So here in green, we can look at some of these time or temporal words that are good for the beginning of our story. So these might fit in our kickoff, right? We might set one of these words right here on our kickoff or our introduction paper. Or they might actually fit better on the beginning of our problem paper. It really depends on how your story goes. So let me read these to you. Beginning, first, in the beginning, initially, or to begin with. Those are different words you can start a story or kind of say that this is the very beginning of your story. In the middle of your story, so where your problem definitely is, where something's going on, you can use these words. Also, next, then, later, after that, suddenly, and meanwhile. So the yellow words are really good for the middle of our story, and you might use a couple of them, right? You don't have to just use one. And then at the end of our story in red, these are things you can end your story with. Remember, they're not the last word, they're just words you can use towards the end of your story. So maybe in your solution, if you wrote a different ending, things like that. You can say last, finally, at last, eventually, and in the end. All right. So today we're going to be adding these temporal words to our story planning papers, okay? So you need to make sure you have all of these papers with you. These words are going to help us organize the events that happen in our stories so that a reader can follow when things happened. On the next couple slides, you'll see samples of the stories you've been writing with your teachers in class. And here's the one that I've been doing with my class. So I chose not to use my character paper. Okay, my character paper right here. Because my character paper just gives me information. That was my brainstorming, my thinking. Okay? This just told me who my character was. I'm not using this to start my story. I am going to put my stories in order and put my kickoff, then my problem, and then my solution. So as you'll notice, I put my temporal time transition words in at green, and I'll read them to you so you can see how it works. Here's my kickoff. I thought about it, and it didn't work for my story to put a temporal word here. Swoosh, crash, caw. It was very hot and sticky at the beach. Okay, temporal word didn't work there. First, there's a temporal word right here. First, Bella got ice cream because it was a hot day at the beach. Here's another one. Suddenly, her baby brother Jack pushed her and the ice cream fell. Okay, friends, I also want you to notice, see how I didn't have space? So I put a little arrow, we call it a little caret. This is where you edit your paper and you say, this is where this word could fit in. This is where it could go well. Then I put some other middle words and a ending word in my solution page here. So I did after, it's another one of those middle words. After Bella told her mom, Mom picked up Jack. In the end, there's one more with a little caret. In the end, she said I could get a new ice cream. So friends, in your own stories, you can choose how many of these words make sense and where to put them. Remember, on the other slides, you'll see some extra examples and look for those transition words. See how the teachers wrote them. Remember, we don't have to worry about 2 capital letters here because this is just how we're editing our story. Okay, just because I'm putting another word in here, it's okay that my H is still capitalized. When I make my final copy or I go back and make other changes, I can change it later. But we're only working on temporal words. Good. So here's your task. Okay, your task is, first, friends, there's temporal words in all of our tasks. Oh my goodness, we've been using them every day. So first, put your writing pages in order. That will help you decide what's your beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so your kickoff, your problem, and solution. And if you have an ending paper, you'll add that in there too. Next, choose a temporal transition word from the anchor chart, bloop, 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 right here, to add to the beginning of each page. You can go back and see our teacher models for different examples. After, read through your story using those temporal words. Do they make sense? So you don't want to say finally if your story is still going on, right? Finally should only be used towards the end. So make sure they make sense. And last, be ready to share your writing. Be ready to share your writing with your teacher. Okay, tomorrow in class, we're going to be asking you to share some of them so we can work with you. But we do not need you to upload any pictures from today, right? Remember, you're not writing a new piece. You are just adding words to what you already have. Excellent. Well, we can't wait to see your work. Take your time and good luck, friends. We'll see you tomorrow.